Okay, now that I've gotten my maniacal laughter for the day out of the way, what's up? It's Chris, the Drone Geek, and on today's episode of Let's Talk Drones, we're going to be discussing a change in some trends that I've seen with DJI, as well as one other consumer and prosumer drone manufacturer. We'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Before we get into the video, though, I do want to share with you this little piece of information because I'm really excited about it. I just got this guy in the mail, the Geek RC Mark V FPV freestyle drone. We're going to be doing a full and all-encompassing review on this guy in the very near future. Excited about that for sure. Also, this episode of Let's Talk Drones is brought to you by The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots based in the United States. Make sure you check them out online at thedroningcompany.com and across all major social media platforms, including their YouTube channel, which I'm going to go ahead and link up here. But make sure you watch this video first. Just come back to it later. Click on that link if you need to. One last thing, and speaking of the Droning Company, I will be attending the Exponential 2023 show in Denver, Colorado. That'll be from May 8th through the 11th. Now, I'm going to be in Denver from May 7th through the 12th, so if you plan on attending, make sure you send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. Let me know where you're going to be, what booths you're going to frequent, and if we can link up, I'd be more than happy to do that as well. If you want to flag me down, I'll be wearing a Droning Company t-shirt. I'll be there on behalf of the Droning Company, getting lots of interviews for their YouTube channel and also documenting my own experience for right here on this channel as well. I'm really excited about Exponential 2023, and I hope to see you there. Now that all of that's out of the way, let's talk about what today's video is actually about, which is largely this guy right here, the Mavic 3. There's been a lot of developments around the Mavic 3 line of drones, but we gotta start way back before we can get into the meat of what we're talking about today. Meat. And the trend that I've been alluding to throughout the beginning of this video is one having to do with the way that the companies manufacture their drones. Now, to really accurately give you my synopsis on what I'm seeing with this trend, I actually have to go back in time to the Phantom 4 version 2 Pro. Now, this drone was the absolute, without a shadow of a doubt, flagship drone for DJI for many years, the Phantom series. When you'd say DJI or you even say drone, most people, whether they knew about drones or not, would come up with some sort of visualization of that signature white model drone. Now, the Phantom series was not without its faults. There were some jello footage issues, there were some other issues that I never experienced personally, but I know it wasn't a perfect specimen by any stretch of the imagination. Not to mention, not super aerodynamic and certainly not as portable as the Mini series, the Air series, and the Mavic series. And so for the longest time after the Phantom 4 version 2 Pro came out, people were wondering, is there going to be another Phantom? Is there going to be a Phantom 5, myself included? And after just a few years of that initial thought, I can pretty much all but guarantee we won't see a Phantom 5. In fact, if you want any further proof of that, you can't even find the Phantom series of drones on DJI's website anymore. You can find some of the accessories for sale. It's just the leftovers that they've got in their supply closet, but you can't actually go to DJI.com and even see a Phantom drone anymore. They don't exist. So then fast forward to the Mavic 2 series, the Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic 2 Zoom, and the Mavic 2 Enterprise drones. For the longest time, the Mavic 2 really sort of took over as the flagship drone for DJI. It was more portable, it was more aerodynamic, and they made it so it was a little bit more capable too in terms of how it can perform and the images that you can get out of the camera with that Hasselblad camera and that DJI D-Log profile. Now, the Phantom had that as well. It had a 1-inch sensor and it had D-Log, but it just couldn't quite capture the imagery the same way that the Mavic 2 Pro could, and it didn't have the lossless zoom functionality like the Mavic 2 Zoom. All in all, the Mavic 2, either the Zoom or the Pro, was sort of the beginning of the end for the Phantom series. And why I'm talking about this is because you're starting to see this bottleneck in the way that DJI manufactures its drones. It goes from a variety of different body types and styles to all of a sudden it's going more towards this form factor that's foldable and easy to tote around. Not to mention, again, it is more aerodynamic. So right there was sign number one that things were beginning to change for DJI. Sign number two actually came in the form of the DJI Mini 2. Now, previously, The mini drone that DJI put out was the DJI Mavic Mini. It shared the Mavic moniker with the Mavic series of drones, which made sense because it adopted a lot of the design that the Mavic 2 had, just in a smaller form factor. Then all of a sudden, the second version of this drone came out and it was labeled the DJI Mini 2. No more Mavic, even though a lot of people call it the Mavic Mini 2. That is not what it is. It is the DJI Mini 2. The same thing happened with the air drones. The first air drone was the DJI Mavic Air. If you remember, it wasn't quite the same design as the Mavic drones, but it had the folding arms, which was extremely identifiable with the Mavic series of drones. Most people just thought folding arms means Mavic. And then the DJI Air 2 came out, and all of a sudden it wasn't the DJI Mavic Air anymore, it was the DJI Air 2. So now we've gone from two versions of the Mavic, the Air and the Mini, to now all of a sudden we have three different drones minus the Phantom drone. So we've got now the Mavic, we've got the Air, and we've got the Mini. And those are arguably the three flagship drones for consumer products for DJI. I'm not talking about Inspire, I'm not talking about Matrice. Those drones are for different applications and a different subset of people are looking at those solutions. I'm talking about the larger whole, consumers and prosumers that are looking for affordable options with a high output in terms of quality. Now is our last clue. Just happened recently. I'm going to share a little bit of a personal experience that I had that was somewhat of a pain point for me. So in October of 2021, DJI announced the Mavic 3. Everybody was really excited about this, including myself. I'd switched over from the Phantom 3 into the Mavic series. I had the Mavic 2 Zoom and then graduated into the Mavic 2 Pro. And then when the Mavic 3 came out, I looked as quickly as I could for somebody that would buy my Mavic 2 Pro off of me. I was really stoked about the Mavic 3 because it had that 4/3 sensor plus the 1/2-inch sensor on the top that had a zoom capability. We didn't really know what to expect with this, but we were really excited about the idea of having two functional cameras on the Mavic 3. I was really excited about that larger sensor size in the bottom camera. Of course, I was very, very curious about the applicability of the 1/2-inch sensor on the top of the camera's body. So I ordered it. It got here and I fell in love. This drone is going to be probably my workhorse drone for the foreseeable future. I mean, it delivered on everything that I could have possibly asked for. The only place that it fell short was in that one curiosity that I had in the 1/2-inch zoom camera. Now, the reason that it fell short is because largely you can't really use anything that comes out of that zoom lens professionally. And the other thing that was really difficult to swallow on this one was the price increase compared to the Mavic 2 Pro. Mavic 2 Pro, I paid around $1,700 for with the Fly More combo and everything included. For the Fly More combo, I paid $3,000 for this thing. It was expensive. And so I thought, well, you know what? $3,000, it is a bigger sensor. It does perform better than the drone I used to have. It's a net positive, I'll take it. And I was pretty happy with this drone until October of 2022. That's when DJI officially announced that they'd be manufacturing a new version of the Mavic called the Mavic 3 Classic. Now, what was the main difference between the Mavic 3, the original Mavic 3, and the Mavic 3 Classic? It didn't have the 1/2-inch zoom camera on the top of the gimbal body. So you just had the 4/3 sensor, that's it. There's no additional lens, no additional sensor or camera. It's just the 4/3 sensor. So I sat and I seethed and I thought to myself, why? Why would they do that? Why would they come out with a drone that is less expensive and doesn't have the same number of cameras, but actually got rid of the inferior camera out of the two? So now you've got pretty much the ideal machine that I was looking for after getting my first experience with the Mavic 3 OG. I remember being really resentful and mad for quite a while actually after they announced the Mavic 3 Classic. And then I sort of came to peace with it. I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to use the 1/2-inch camera for any kind of professional work, but it's kind of a cool little feature that I have. I had used it for a search and rescue mission for a lost dog. I was able to zoom in on a certain swath of land and look for the dog. It would have been super helpful if it was thermal, but I didn't buy that drone, so I wasn't expecting it to have that. The zoom camera did help out in more practical applications aside from video and photo. And so after a while, I sort of just recovered and I was good. I was cool with it. It's fine, whatever. That is until April of 2023. Now, that was just a few days ago as of the recording of this video. So you already know what I'm talking about, the Mavic 3 Pro. Now, this camera came out with some really cool technology. I've got to speak to the merits first and foremost. It has 3 different cameras on it. It's got the 4/3 sensor camera, which delivers the same image quality that you got in the original Mavic 3 and the Mavic 3 Classic. However, it also came with 2 additional sensors, a 70mm equivalent for medium range shooting and a 166mm equivalent for that really tight close-up shooting. Now, why would you want that in a drone? The reason is, a cinematographer is looking for as many tools in their tool belt as possible, and as drone technology continues to evolve and continues to get better and better, that means it's going to be more functional in shooting settings. So, end of the story here for me is they just took that scab and they ripped it right back open. I was so upset because I thought, it's not just that they came out with this cool drone that has multiple capabilities beyond what I purchased with the Mavic 3 OG. I also did it like fractionally more expensive. And what I mean by that is with the Mavic 3 Pro, you're only paying a little bit more for equivalent packages with the original Mavic 3, and you're getting the DJI RC remote, the smart controller. I bought this thing with the RC N1. So I have the standard RC for the Mavic 3 OG, and I paid, if you do an equivalency thing, more for it than I would have if I just would have waited and bought the Mavic 3 Pro with the DJI RC remote. It's like mildly frustrating because I'm happy with what I have. I'm grateful that I was able to afford it in the first place, but from an enthusiast standpoint, I'm frustrated because if I had just waited, I would have gotten exactly what I was looking for and not just something that was kind of close. So that brings me to the point of this video. What change are we seeing in the manufacturing trends with DJI? Now, I have to talk about one other manufacturer in particular to really make sense of this for you. We talk about Autel as being the counterpunch for DJI. When people are unhappy with DJI, arguably one of the first places they turn to is Autel, and vice versa. They are rivals within the drone space because they're both doing it at about the same level. I would say DJI has a slight edge overall, but Autel is hanging right with them, and they're sort of pushing the envelope for DJI. And this is maybe one of the first experiences I've seen with DJI and Autel where DJI is really following Autel's lead. Now you're starting to see DJI, again, bottleneck the way that they manufacture drones. And we saw this with Autel in their Evo series earlier. We saw the Autel Evo, we saw the Autel Evo 2, and then we saw the Autel Evo 2 version 2, and now the most recent version is the Autel Evo 2 version 3. And in between those versions, they've got a variety of different versions of those particular types of drones as well, including the thermal, the enterprise, the RTK, you name it. So Autel has done this thing where they have this one type of drone. Now you can argue that they have the Lite and the Nano series as well, but again, it's built off of the back of the Evo drones. In fact, those drones are still referred to as the Autel Evo Lite and the Autel Evo Nano. But largely, Autel went with the strategy of, we're gonna get really good at manufacturing one type of drone, and that is going to be our flagship drone. They did have an earlier version that sort of mimicked the Phantom, but overall, Autel sort of from the beginning, not the very beginning, but early on, went with this strategy, and it's really paid off for them. And I think that's what helped them get a foothold in the market and put them in a position where they can actually push and pressure DJI within the market. So now DJI is following suit. They're going, you know what? We're gonna do one particular type of drone. It's gonna be that folding style that we have with the Mavic series. We're gonna get really, really good at it. And in between all of that, we're also going to manufacture a variety of different versions of the drone. We're gonna have the Mavic 3. We're gonna have the Mavic 3 Classic. We're gonna have the Mavic 3 Pro. We're gonna have the Enterprise version, the thermal version, you name it, we are gonna have it. And I don't hate this as a business model. I actually like it because it simplifies everything. It takes out that nuance in the market. When you purchase a Phantom, you experience difficulties that Mavic users won't ever experience, and vice versa. It allows there to be more community in the problem-solving department, as well as just the overall camaraderie. And there's a lot of different ways you can view this. It's good, bad, anything in between. The fact is, this is what's happening. DJI is going to begin, and you'll see they've already started with the Mavic series, the Air series, and the Mini series. They're going to begin just narrowing down the number of different drones that they have and the way that they're manufactured. They're also going to start to just assign different versions throughout each series. So I wouldn't be surprised at all for the Air 3 and the Mini 4 and the Mavic 4 if we see pretty much the same model. They're going to come out with those drones, and then they're going to have a variety of different versions that you can choose from. The only thing that I wish, and the only feedback that I have to offer DJI if they're going to continue down that path, is release them all at once. Like, just put it out there. What do we have available to us? What are you going to develop? What are you going to support? And what are you going to continue to support in the future? And I say that last part because after doing some research for this video, I found that you can no longer find the Mavic 3 OG on the DJI website, and you're hard-pressed to find it anywhere else. There are a few third-party websites like B&H where you can still buy this, but I imagine their stock is very limited, and once it's gone, it's gone. So it largely looks like DJI pulled the same thing they did with the Phantom on the Mavic 3 OG. You just can't buy this anymore because, let's face it, it's obsolete. Again, not a DJI hit piece. I do like DJI. They put out top-notch drones. I just wish they would have done things a little bit differently here. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button if you liked this video. And if you really, really liked this video, you love drone content about drones, by drones, and for drone pilots, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you really, really liked this video, you love drone content, hit the bell icon while you hit that subscribe button too. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. This is your second reminder to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, I'm Chris the Drone Geek, and I am out of here. See ya.